Hey guys, so welcome to my next Phantom Thief build guide, which is Morgana in Persona 5 Royal. Now, to kick things off, we'll start off with his stat spread, and as you can see here, Morgana has the second highest base magic stat in the game, as well as the third highest SP stat in the game. So this skews Morgana into more of a magic oriented role. What's interesting is that his strength stat doesn't lag that far behind at 61. It's pretty respectable, and we'll see later that Morgana actually has a pretty usable physical skill in the game as well. So he's more magic focused, but at the same time he can deal physical damage. He has the third highest agility stat in the game, which allows him to take his turns faster, which is what you would want from a Morgana as a healer, which we'll get into that more in a bit. And it also gives him more evade procs as well to help with survivability. He has surprisingly the highest luck stat in the game, and this means that he has the highest base chance to crit in the game out of all the thieves, as well as he has very high chance to proc his status elements on the opponent. Due to all of his stats being average to above average, it then naturally means that he has the lowest HP in the game, and it's pretty significant how low his HP is. And he has the second lowest endurance stat in the game. And this leads to Morgana having the worst survivability out of all of the Phantom Thief, which is a very big knock on his kit as a whole. Moving into his persona skill set for the first semester, his persona is Zoro, and his trait is Proud Presence, and this increases the effect of all allies healing skills, which is a pretty dang good early to mid game trait when no one has the full heals available just yet. And this by default makes Morgana the best healer in the game. From a affinity standpoint, he's naturally strong against his native element, which is wind, and of course weak to the opposing element, which is electric. So that's why we need his evade elect passive, which you can get by maxing out his confidant at rank 10, which happens naturally via story progression. He has strong Garu skills in Garudyne and Garudyne, which are both backed up by Wind Boost and Wind Amp, which give him a 75% damage increase in wind skills. So that's a very big plus in his kit. He gets access to Miracle Punch, which gives him it doesn't offer a lot of damage, but more importantly, it offers a lot of knockdowns by virtue of having a 45% base chance to crit. This is a very good utility skill on Morgana's end. Debilitate, which you can get via the Jazz Club on December 11th, rounds Morgana's kit pretty nicely by giving him more utility. And Debilitate basically reduces the attack, defense, and agility stat of the opponent. And not only does it help your team to deal more damage by virtue of decreasing defense, but by decreasing the attack of the opponent, it helps Morgana's survivability issues, which is a huge plus when using Morgana, because otherwise he'll be pretty hard to use. And the last skill I would suggest on him would be a healing skill of sorts, and he learns the best heal in the game in Salvation. Salvation is basically a full party heal, and it also removes all status elements from the party, and no one else in the Phantom Thieves learns this. Morgana is the only one that learns this, so he has this niche that he can fulfill in the team. In the third semester, his persona evolves into Diego, and his trait upgrades to Majestic Presence, and it still increases the healing skills of allies, but it may also decrease SP cost. The issue with this skill is that it's highly situational. It's not a guarantee that healing skills will have their SP cost decreased, and the odds of you running more than a single healer on the team is pretty low. So honestly, only one member is going to benefit off of his trait, which makes it a very, very meh trait in my opinion. From an affinity point of view, he now nulls win but gains a resistance to blast attacks, which is only one honestly one of the better affinities to be strong against, because he's now strong against one shot um, instant kills such as Mahamon. He still retains his electric weakness, and hence we still need his evade elect passive there, which triples his evasion towards electricity. For his third semester unique skill, he gains Miracle Rush, which is basically the AoE version of Miracle Punch, and instead of 45%, it has a 40% base chance to crit. This makes Morgana very good in groups, so it sort of skews him towards more of like a dungeon crawler role, and less so for boss fights, which are typically single target focused. Morgana has a lot of alternative skills that you can consider for him, and we'll start things off with Pulimpa, which he learns extremely early at level 19, and this basically casts the status element, which allows Psi, Wind, and Gun skills to proc technicals off of. This is actually a pretty good skill because it not only gives Morgana a chance to technical off of his wind damage, but every Phantom Thief in the game holds gun, and hence every teammate can capitalize on Pulimpa to proc technicals via gun skills. Next is Samar Recom at level 45, and this is a very niche skill to have because it's basically just a full revive skill for a single target, and it would only be useful for no items challenge runs, sort of as like a reset button. Next, we have Maraku Kaja, which you can get from the Jazz Club on July 17th or October 16th, and this helps alleviate Morgana's durability issues by giving an increased defense buff. Why you would have Maraku Kaja instead of Debilitate is for two reasons. One is that Debilitate is unlocked pretty late in the game in December, and you can get Maraku Kaja as early as July. But more importantly, Debilitate can only be given to a single ally per playthrough. So you might want to give Debilitate to more universally useful characters such as Makoto, and because of that, you might want to slot in something that's less fought for, and that skill is Maraku Kaja instead. You could also consider Concentrate that you can learn from the Jazz Club on September 25th, because Morgana naturally has the second best magic stat in the game. Once again, Concentrate is a highly contested skill. Primarily Makoto and Haru both benefit off of this specific skill, so it might not be on your radar for a first or second playthrough. Finally, Alley Dance works on everyone. It can be obtained from the Jazz Club on January 15th, and this basically gives him helps with his survivability issues and gels well with his high agility. Once again, Alley Dance is super highly contested, and given how niche of a role Morgana feels, you might not want to give Alley Dance to him until probably your third or your fourth playthrough, if you even do it that much. For gear, in my opinion, the best melee weapon on Morgana is the Magister Sword, which has a 290 base attack stat, but more importantly gives him +5 in his magic stat. Once again, the raw attack stat here doesn't do much because it just helps his basic melee attacks and helps out with his all-out attack damage. What you really want here is that magic buff, especially because Persona 5 Royal has a double stat glitch, so this is actually giving Morgana +10 in his magic stat, which allows his Gar skills to hit harder. You can obtain this via Evide Shop pretty late into the game, on January 13 onwards. And for his range weapon, there's only one notable one, which is the Sudarshana EX, which is his ultimate weapon by base attack value, which gives him 330 base attack, but more importantly gives him high dizzy. So this specific element is insane because Sudarshana EX um, has more than one. Morgana can shoot more than one shot. I believe it's 3 to 5. So the DZ can proc on each individual shot, and DZ is an element that can proc technicals via gun. So what this actually means is that Morgana can shoot his Sudarshana EX, and when someone gets hit with a DZ, the next bullet will be a technical down. So it's actually a pretty good range weapon in my opinion. And you can get this by itemizing Vishnu under a fusion alarm, which requires the full confidant to be maxed at rank 10. There's no worry on this because you will get a max full confidant by story progression. The best protector for Morgana is the Dragon Scale Scarf, which gives him 318 defense, but more importantly reduces incoming physical damage by a high amount. And you can get this by washing Sudi scale armor, which you can at the laundry shop, which you can get from Fafnir in the final palace of the game, which is the Laboratory of Sorrow. Morgana has two recommended accessories from my point of view. The first one is particularly favorable, and that is Crystal Skull R. You can get this by itemizing Crystal Skull under a fusion alarm. It gives Morgana the Angelic Grace passive, which increases his evasion against magic skills which are not almighty based, and it of course helps him with his survivability issues. It also gives him a very sweet +6 to all of his stats, and the unique thing about Morgana is he benefits from this tremendously. He's gonna get increased physical damage because of this, increased magic damage because of this. It's gonna patch up his endurance issues. It's gonna further increase his agility, which helps his evasion, and it's also gonna increase his luck, which then in turn increases his crit procs for either Miracle Punch or Miracle Rush. The next accessory is purely durability based, and it's the White Headband R. It gives Morgana the passive Life Surge, which gives him plus 30% HP, and then gives him a further +8 in his endurance boost to help out with his survivability issues. And you can get this by itemizing Izanagi under a fusion alarm. For alternative gear, you can consider the Climb Solace R, which by base attack value is technically his ultimate weapon at 330 attack stat, and it gives him a +50 SP boost. This is actually a pretty good weapon if you've sort of downgraded Morgana into a menu healer and you basically never use him in active parties anymore. So this would be my recommended weapon for him. And you can get this by itemizing Mother Harlot under a fusion alarm, and you will need to max out your Empress Confidant to get access to Mother Harlot. For team synergies, I have the founders of the Phantom Thieves here, which is Morgana, Ryuji, and An. So this is a very classic healer, warrior, black mage combination, which then Joker can fill in the gaps depending on what you want, extra damage, extra support, whatnot. But Morgana is the best healer in the game, and he serves as a great early to mid game healer because he learns the higher tier healing skills more quickly, and he has both physical and magic damage. Ryuji of course has excellent physical damage and has a pretty bloated offensive support skill set by buffing the team's attack via Mataru Kaja. An, on the other end of the spectrum, has great magic damage and provides great utility in this team, primarily via Matarunda, which decreases the attack of the opponent, which indirectly increases the survivability of both Morgana and An, which are by far the softest, squishiest Phantom Thieves in the game. And she also gives sleep line skills, which allow both Morgana and Ryuji to proc technicals off of, because every skill in the game is can be technical off of sleep skills. A second team to consider is an all-out magic team of Morgana, An, and Makoto. So Morgana is still the best healer in the game by virtue of learning Salvation, and because his trait has a chance to reduce SP cost of healing skills, and his wind skills complement An's burns very well because they can technical off of the burns. For An, she provides a party-wide concentrate buff, and Makoto's trait helps her to increase her burn procs. Finally, Makoto alleviates the team's frailty via Muraku Kaja, which buffs the entire team's defense, and if you give her Debilitate, it then further decreases the attack of the opponent, and she can also proc technicals off of An's burns by virtue of her innate element being nuclear. So to cap things off, we'll give Morgana a report card. So in terms of the raw damage, big numbers, I would give Morgana a C. The reason why is because he has pretty respectable damage by virtue of having Wind Boost and Wind Amp to further boost his Garu skills. But he doesn't have the highest magic stat in the game that belongs to An. He doesn't innately learn Concentrate. And he's not the first guy you would want to give Concentrate on during a playthrough from the Jazz Club. And he doesn't learn any severe spells that he can capitalize on. In terms of utility damage, I would also give him a C. Morgana has a pretty good utility skill in Miracle Punch or Rush, which gives very high crit procs. Miracle Rush in particular is the highest crit AoE skill in the game. It's just a shame that Wind is the worst element out there. It doesn't provide any status element like how Fire has burns, Ice has freeze, and Shock has Elec has shock. Wind it doesn't have any elements, so I would give him a C here. Of course, for survivability, he'll be an F-tier. He has paper thin defense, and although he has decently high agility, he doesn't naturally learn alley dance to help with that. And even his protector is not the best in the game because it reduces physical damage rather than magic damage, which is the more common attack type, I feel, by bosses in the game, in my opinion. So he gets an F here. For support, he has C. Primarily because he learns Salvation, which is still a very good support skill, and it still gives him a niche that no other Phantom Thief can naturally fill aside from Joker. Otherwise, his trait gets power crept by the mid to late game when everyone learns the full heal Midyarahan or Diarahan, and Masukunda, which is his naturally learned debuff skill, is a very forgettable skill because it just decreases agility of targets, i.e. reducing their evasion and accuracy stats. For ease of use, I would give him a C. This is because Morgana needs at least one skill from the Jazz Club to round out his kit. Ideally, you might want to give him Debilitate or Concentrate to help with support or damage respectively, but once again, these are highly contested skills. So the third best skill to give him is actually Muraku Kaja to patch up his defense. So as a final grade, unfortunately, Morgana's gonna leave this review with a D. He's gonna be the lowest graded Phantom Thief in the game because he doesn't do anything particularly well, and because of that, he suffers from the survivability issues, which doesn't complement his skill set very well. He's a healer throughout, and he's squishy, so you kind of need someone to patch that up for him, so it doesn't really meld well at all. And I guess that's it, guys. That's my review for Morgana. The next one on the list would be An, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Please be sure to leave a comment on how I can improve this. Is there anything that you think I missed out on? But otherwise, I'll see you in the next one, guys. Thank you.